What up, guys? Spot on picks here. And the UFC's been gone for a few weeks. They're coming back with this card in Washington, D.C. And this card's pretty fire. A lot of interesting matchups in the lighter weight classes. And I watched a lot of film for these fights. So I think we're going to go 12 for 12 this week. Let's starting it off with Trevor Smith versus Makhmud Muradov. Trevor Smith is 38, Muradov 29. Trevor Smith, he's a veteran journeyman. No real striking threat. He kind of tries to get the clinch and burn the clock. Muradov in his last fight made his UFC debut against Jairzhino. I thought Jairzhino won that fight. Muradov was kind of on the back foot the whole time. Pop shot and um, he did get the decision. I'm expecting, UFC jitters. They happen to everyone making their debut, and I'm expecting a better performance in his second fight. Uh, Trevor Smith, he just doesn't have much of a striking threat in this one. I really think Muradov can just outland him in strikes, and get the decision. We got Virna Jandiroba versus Mallory Martin. Virna fought Carla Esparza earlier this year, I believe, and she got grinded out. If you've seen Carla fight before, you know how she fights. And Mallory Martin, coming off the Contender Series, she didn't get the contract. She put on a good performance, but she didn't get the contract. She got this fight on short notice in Washington, D.C. Virna, what she brings to the table, all she really has is a jab and an overhand. She mainly uses her grappling in her fights, but she did get out grappled by the smaller Carla Esparza in her last fight. That was the first loss of her career. Uh, Mallory, you know, she's pretty big for this division. Not huge, but she's a little bigger than Virna. Slight height advantage. A little bit heavier, I'd say. And I think it's good that she just fought a few weeks ago in Invicta, I believe. Yeah. And Mallory doesn't have the best striking. But neither does Virna. She has that jab and she brings that overhand up top, fairly predictable. Um, Virna, she, you know, uses her grappling to win her fights in Invicta. And then when she got to the UFC, Carla just shut that down real quick. I think Mallory can do the same. Mallory, she has decent hands. She does have kind of slow feet in a way, but I mean, I think that'll only give her trouble when she's fighting an elite striker. Against a very mediocre striker in Virna, I think Mallory's size advantage plus her wrestling will really make the difference in this fight. Um, I got Mallory decision. She has some vicious ground and pound, so you know if she gets Virna in a bad position, she could finish it. But I got Mallory decision in that one. Wiman versus Joe Solecki. Joe Solecki coming off the Contender Series. Matt Wiman, a longtime UFC veteran, recently made a comeback after taking many years off, and he got destroyed by Luis Pena. Luis Pena is shown to be kind of a mediocre fighter, so that's not a good look for Wiman. Solecki on this Contender Series fight, he showed a well-rounded game, a good leg kick. He's known for his grappling in his previous fights, but on the Contender Series, his striking looks so crisp. Um, I don't think his opponent landed one significant strike on him. He showed great footwork and just a well-rounded game overall. Solecki really should dominate this fight. Just beat up the lead leg of Wiman, land his strikes, and probably take Wiman down at some point and choke him out. Wiman, I guess he just wants to fight. Maybe he needs the money, but against a young, hungry guy like Solecki, I just don't think this is a good matchup for him. I got Solecki via submission. Then we got Bryce Mitchell versus Matt Sayles. This is such an interesting fight. Both guys 25. Sayles coming off the Contender Series. Bryce Mitchell coming off the Ultimate Fighter a few seasons ago. And, you know, Bryce Mitchell made his debut against Bobby Moffitt. He dropped Moffitt in the first round, put on a good performance. Matt Sayles fought Shaman Rice in his debut. Tough fight for your debut. And he lost unanimous decision. Then he fought Kyle Nelson. It was a close fight up until Sayles finished it off. You know, what Bryce Mitchell brings to the table, he's a very crafty striker. Good head movement. He doesn't really get caught clean too often. He has a very different style of fighting. And when he got in there with when he got in there with Bobby Moffitt, you could kind of tell Moffitt was confused in there. He was backing up, wasn't really too sure of himself. And Mitchell really took advantage of that. He put a good pace on Moffitt. And when Moffitt couldn't get the takedowns and, Mitchell was still coming after him, Moffitt really didn't know what to do in that fight. I think the Ultimate Fighter was really good for Bryce Mitchell. I think DC taught him a lot of good aspects that he added to his game. Matt Sayles, I believe he's training over there at Syndicate MMA in San Diego. And, Matt Sayles did kind of struggle when he fought a bigger fighter in Shaman Mariah. He does like to use that shoulder roll. That's good for boxing, but in MMA, when you're fighting a guy with longer reach than you and effective counter striking, like Bryce Mitchell, I think that could give him a lot of problems in this fight. And, I'm not too worried about Mitchell getting taken down. He's shown great takedown defense and very good work in the clinch. Good knees in the clinch, good elbows. I really don't think Matt Sayles has ever fought anyone like Bryce Mitchell with the movement and the striking. I think it'll be a little bit too much for Sayles. Um, Mitchell's he's kind of an unorthodox fighter, and this is kind of the perfect matchup for him in this one, in my opinion. So I got Mitchell decision. And we got Jacob Kilburn versus Billy Quarintillo. This is a mismatch. Quarintillo was a lock here. This dude, Jacob Kilburn, he's got destroyed in his Contender Series fight. And he fought two average fighters in island fights, and now he's coming back to the UFC. Don't be fooled. Quarintillo, submission or knockout. I see Quarintillo finishing this fight though. Yeah, I don't have to speak on that one too much. Billy Quarintillo's a lock in that one. Then we got Thiago Alves versus Tim Means. It seems like Thiago Alves has been getting beat by everyone lately. Most recently, got beat by Staropoli decision. Max Griffin got robbed against him, and he should be on a 4-fight losing streak, in my opinion. Last fight he won was against Patrick Cote back in 2017. And I thought it was funny, actually. Carlos Condit got his last win against him. Carlos Condit hasn't got a win since 2015, man, and it was against Thiago Alves. So that's interesting. Tim Dirty Bird Means. I thought Tim Means was doing well against Nico Price until he wasn't. He had Nico Price hurt. He rushed in. He got slept. Um, that happens in MMA, but you know, if you look at Tim Means' record, he's a finisher. Just look at all these damn knockouts, man. Over his career, he just knocked a lot of dudes out, and he's taken some losses too. But against the old veteran, Thiago Alves, Tim Means is a veteran also, but I think he's taken a little bit less damage than Thiago. Um, and I do see Tim Means getting a finish in this one. I just the way he hurt Nico Price, he looked so crisp in that fight. He took a little bit of time off after that knockout, which was good, but I'm expecting him to pick up, where he was in that fight. Before that, he stopped Ricky Raney in the first round, and I really think this is kind of the perfect fight for Tim Means to end his career if he wants, but he can keep going a few more fights, but I'd like to see him hanging up pretty soon. But I got Tim Means in that one. I think he could finish Alves. Then we got Rob Font versus Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone is a rudimentary fighter to me. He's very predictable. In his fight versus Montel Jackson, Montel was in control of that fight. Ricky Simone kind of just outworked him over time. Just the little kicks and stuff added up. But, if Montel would have stepped it up at any point, he could have easily got that win. And, Montel's a good prospect in that division, in my opinion. But Ricky Simone's just very predictable to me. Very rudimentary fighter. And he really only succeeds when his opponent makes mistakes. If you look at it, against Muradov, he was losing that fight clearly, and a technical guillotine choke at the last second of the fight saved him. Ronnie Yaya had no striking threat at all, so that was kind of an easy fight for him. But I think this is just the worst possible matchup for him. A guy like Rob Font, who doesn't make mistakes like that, who if Font sticks to a game plan and fights like he usually does, this fight should be easy for him. Rob Font has very tight, powerful, effective striking. He's not too fancy, but he mixes it up well. The way he mixes it up from body to head with the striking is beautiful. Uh, so this fight should be easy for him if he sticks to his game plan. Ricky Simone, just the way he got slept by Uriah Faber, just it speaks volumes on this guy. He's just not that top level. I just don't think he's a top 10 fighter in that division. Rob Font, on the other hand, I think is very good camp. He's training with Calvin Kattar in that camp, so I got Rob Font via decision in that one. And we got Cody Stamann versus Yadong Song. Cody Stamann's a tough guy, but he is in the lower level of that bantamweight division. Yadong Song, one of the top prospects in the bantamweight division in the UFC. They both fought the same guy in their last fight. Cody fought a hard decision win, while Yadong slept Alejandro Perez in the first round and really made a statement in this division. Um, I don't see anyone outside of the top 10 beating Song, really. Especially a guy like Cody, whose striking is really just not up to the top level in that division. And, Song showed in his last fight that his counter striking, he has real power at his hands. And if Stamann gasses himself out, I could see Yadong Song putting him away. But this fight, for me, I really just see Yadong Song winning a decision in this one. Next up, we got Aspen Ladd versus Yana Kunitskaya. I had a feeling Aspen Ladd would lose to Jermaine Durandamine in her last fight. When they got in the octagon together, the size difference was just mediocre. Durandamine made Aspen look like a little girl next to her. And, Yana's a big girl, but she's not as big as Durandamine. She's closer to Aspen Ladd's height. Um, Yana's a big girl, not a lot of skill. She mostly uses her grappling in her fights, her grappling and clinch work. Both have the same mediocre kind of striking. I just think that Aspen's pressure and her counter grappling will kind of get her the decision. This is women's bantamweight, I believe. Yeah, so not the highest level, except from the top two in the division, but Aspen Ladd's she's a top 5 in that division. She'll get beat by Nunes or Durandamine any day of the week, but against a girl like Kunitskaya, who's not the most technical, kind of relies on her size, I think Aspen can grind out a decision. Then we got Stefan Struve versus Ben Rothwell. Stefan Struve retired briefly. He's coming back. Ben Rothwell fought Arlovsky in his last fight earlier this year, and he got outclassed by Arlovsky in that one. He didn't look too good in that fight. Stefan Struve, he looked decent in his last fight against Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Got the second round finish. It's impressive. 7-footer, man. You don't see many of these guys around in the UFC, or any, for that fact. But I'm kind of shocked Stefan Struve's the underdog in this one. Struve's 7 years younger, and I just don't think Rothwell is a threat at this stage in his career. I think Struve can hurt him on the feet. I could see him taking Rothwell down if he wants to. This is kind of Struve's fight to kind of showcase what he's really about at this stage in his career. Because he could very well retire if he wanted to, but he's sticking around for a reason, and I think he wants to put on a great performance in this fight. So I got Struve. I think he'll win the decision, though. Then we got the co-main event, Cynthia Calvillo versus Marina Rodriguez. Cynthia Calvillo, she's really not the same fighter she was when she fought Carla Esparza a few fights ago. She made a lot of improvements to her game, and she stays in the gym every day. Follow her on social media. Marina Rodriguez, I picked her against Tisha Torres, and she did real good in that fight. That was kind of a gimme matchup because Tisha Torres is 5'1". Marina Rodriguez is a world class striker, so that was kind of a gimme fight. But what I saw from Marina in her fight versus Randa Marcos, that did kind of worry me. She was getting outstruck by Randa Marcos in points in that fight. She got mounted in the first round, and she just didn't look that strong in there against a girl like Randa Marcos, who has never really been an elite fighter. Cynthia Calvillo, both these girls are 32, by the way. Calvillo, um, you know, she's faced a lot more elite level competition. Just look at her record. She has wins over girls like Courtney Casey, Pauliana Botello, Joanne Calderwood, even Jillian Robertson back in the day, and she beat Aspen Ladd in the amateurs. That's just so much elite level experience. Marina is a 12-0, but who has she really fought? Jessica Aguilar and Randa Marcos and Tisha Torres. I mean, those aren't very elite level fighters, in my opinion. So, um, in this fight, I really think, considering even Randa Marcos was outstriking Marina Rodriguez in that fight, I think Cynthia can land her strikes in there, but I think she'll catch one of Marina's kicks early on, or maybe catch her on the half beat and take her down. Once she does that, she's in Calvillo's world, man, and that's all bad for Marina. So I think the experience will really show in this fight. Um, Marina might have more fights, but most of her fights are in the UFC, so you have to look at that. I really think Cynthia mixes her takedowns with her striking. Once she gets Marina on the mat, uh, once Marina's on her back, how does she react? I think we'll find that out in the first round. Um, I'd say Cynthia gets a couple takedowns. She wins a few rounds and gets a decision. That's how I see that one going. Then we got the main event, Alistair Overeem versus Jairzhino Rozenstruik. When you first look at this matchup, it looks like a massive experience difference. But then you look and see Jairzhino has 93 kickboxing fights, and it kind of evens it out. Um, you know, Overeem lately, he hasn't beat any elite fighters in a while. He beat an old Alexei Oleinik. He beat a Sergey Pavlovich in his UFC debut. Um, he's a legend in this sport, truly. But he also has more KO losses than any other fighter I know. If you look at his record, look at this: lost punches, corner stoppage, lost punches. Round one. His chin just took so much damage over the years. And then you let Francis Ngannou come and drive a rocket through his chin with that uppercut. I just don't think he can take another hard shot to the head. And Jairzhino, man, he burst onto this scene in the UFC. He made his debut back in February against Junior Albini. And, he did have trouble with Albini because Albini's, man, he weighs in at 265. Like, he's a fat heavyweight. And, you know, Jairzhino kind of had trouble with the weight advantage that Albini had in that fight, but he did defend the takedowns and he got the finish in the second round. Since then, though, man, I've never seen Ngannou's power is different, but I'd say Rozenstruik has more power than Ngannou because this dude KOs people with jabs. You know, both Overeem and Rozenstruik walk around about 245, 246. So Alistair won't really be able to use his size to bully him. And if Alistair makes a mistake, man, you know how that's gonna end up. Um, so when you see Jairzhino land punches, man, he doesn't even have to land hard. Uh, in his last fight versus Arlovsky, he kind of just hit him with a few left hooks, and he couldn't. Arlovsky couldn't move after, man. He went head first into the canvas and just gave up. Um, I mean, you guys have all seen Alistair get KO'd over the years, and I'm sure you guys could imagine how it might look. And the way this guy Jairzhino Rozenstruik is looking right now, that's not good for Overeem's questionable chin. Um, this fight is not. I do not see this fight going to the distance in any way. Um, you know, Jairzhino Rozenstruik first round knockout is the only way I see this fight ending, and I think Rozenstruik's a future contender in this division. If he can just keep staying as active as he has been and keep putting together these punches and these combinations, I don't see many people that can take that power. That's it for this card. Solid card all around. I'm very confident in these picks. I say we can go 12 for 12 this week, just because, the lighter weight classes tend to be a little bit less crazy than the heavier ones. So I'd say we should go perfect this week. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment down below. Tell me if you disagree with any of my picks. If you're right, I'll shout you out in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. Some picks. Until next time.